Greetings, library land, and welcome to another episode of Cataloging the Culture. I'm your host, Dr. Karlos L. Marshall, and I proudly serve as the Director of Community Impact and Innovation here at the Dayton Metro Library. With this monthly podcast, we seek to highlight and amplify the voice and visibility of Black men working in and across libraries across the United States. And today, I have the wonderful honor and privilege of being joined by Brother Thomas Dickens. First time here in Dayton, Ohio. How you feeling this morning, brother?
I'm feeling good. I got my coffee. I'm up. I'm awake, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. Appreciate you making the drive down from Columbus.
Yeah, no problem. It's no problem. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. Thomas Dickens is the Assistant Dean for Organizational Development and Culture for University Libraries at the Ohio State University. Dickens leads transformative efforts to foster a welcoming and supportive workplace and a vibrant organizational culture where employees thrive. Reporting to the Vice Provost and Dean of University Libraries, Dickens collaborates with internal and university-wide stakeholders to recruit, retain, and develop a talented workforce to advance research, teaching, and learning. Thomas has been a higher education practitioner for over 10 years. Prior to joining the Ohio State University, Thomas worked at the University of Michigan as the diversity and inclusion specialist for the University Library. In this role, Thomas provided leadership, consultation, programming, and systems and data analysis around internal issues and external trends regarding to diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice. Appreciate your commitment to the work. I definitely have to ask you just about the Ohio State Michigan rivalries as we sit on the heels of the game.
It's this week.
Me being from Ohio State. Oh, if you don't know, you're going to know pretty soon.
I know it.
Yeah.
I know it. Yes.
So you've worked at both.
I have.
Me, I'm actually a Michigan fan. So
really?
I wasn't sure if I could say the Ohio State piece, but you're caught in the crosshairs. I am. Worked at both institutions.
Yes, I am. It's an interesting journey, but mainly, my work, as you highlighted in my bio, thank you for that great introduction, is about being a higher education practitioner. That's what my career is. I worked at several different higher education institutions, and it kind of just happened that I was at University of Michigan, doing work in university libraries there, doing DEI work in university libraries there, and university libraries here at the Ohio State University was just getting ready to create its first dedicated EDI position for their senior leadership team. And a colleague was familiar with the work that I was doing at University of Michigan, had reached out to let me know about the position, and encouraged me to apply. It was something that I wasn't sure if I was ready for, and they said just put your name in the ring, and let your work show. And I did, and I ended up here. So I don't have any particular allegiance. I'm not from Michigan. I'm not from Ohio. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. And I'm a first generation student, so I wasn't too familiar with the college rivalry until I was at Michigan. So it's just been fun and interesting to see the rivalry, and it comes up every time I tell people that I was at Michigan, and then immediately after I was at Ohio State. But I enjoy the rivalry, and it's just an interesting transition, interesting experience.
Absolutely. Go blue. But no,
that's brave.
Yeah, right. But I appreciate you mentioning that. I too myself, prior to coming to the Dayton Metro Library, got my start working in higher education at the University of Dayton for nearly a decade. So I can definitely resonate with that, and also being a first generation student. So just want to turn back the page just slightly and just talk about your upbringing at in St. Louis and kind of how that kind of just shapes you, into the professional pathway that you eventually took.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I grew up on the north side of St. Louis. I'm the second youngest of six boys, and so it was very much a good, close, immediate family dynamic that I had growing up. And I grew up in a low income area, and I knew, based off my experience with my classmates, that I was a little bit more from the lower income bracket than some of my peers were. So that just kind of lent itself to me being more at home and doing inside activities than being outside as much. And so in that process, the two of the things that I picked up, interestingly enough, was video games and books. And one of my older brothers, my late older brother, Alex Dickens, he really introduced me to a wide range of books because he was an avid reader, and that made me an avid reader too. In that process, as I'm listening to my classmates talk about what they want to be when they grew up, I came across the notion of being a video game developer. So again, I was big into video games, big into books, didn't even know that could be a career at all. And I saw it in a movie when I was a kid. And so my whole life was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a video game programmer. And so that lent me to finding a school that was dedicated to, or finding a program that was dedicated to video game design. And so it was a program called Computer Gaming and Entertainment Technology that was out of a small university called Elmhurst College. It's about 30 minutes outside of Chicago. And it's one of the few programs at the time that was at a traditional 4-year institution that was dedicated to video game design. And so I ended up going to that college and getting my bachelor's degree in video game design. And in that process, I was really introduced to what social justice looks like on a college campus. And again, being a first generation student, being a black man at a predominantly white institution, being a low income student and one of the richest counties and cities in Illinois. I think it's the second or third after Evanston, Illinois. It really brought forward to me some of the disparities that our communities are experiencing. Hearing my classmates in college talk about their experience and having it be so vastly different than the experience that I had in St. Louis, really drove me to want to work in higher education and create an environment that was welcoming for all identities from all backgrounds, particularly those from low income backgrounds in Black and brown communities. Because as we know, working in higher education, these are special places where you really find yourself, where you really find some of the gems of intellectualism. You start to form your ideas and opinions in just almost a magical space, because you live and work and eat with so many different people from so many different places across the world. And I wanted to make sure that people like me had access to that and wanted to make sure they had the opportunity to be successful in those environments. So it kind of lent itself to me, ended up getting my master's degree in higher education and student affairs and really working with students in that process. And so I was doing DEI work in that aspect, and then led me to Michigan, which eventually led me to Ohio State. So my origin story is a little bit moving around from one place to another. And I think like many Black Black men in the profession, I kind of found my way to libraries, and not in a traditional path. And, one of the things I want to make sure that I do in this work is highlighting this as an opportunity for Black men, as we grow up and they think about as our classmates talking about what they want to be when they grow up. I want to make sure that libraries and librarianship is in that conversation for people like us too.
That's extremely critical piece that you hit on there, and I think my background being my master's degree is also in higher education administration, and it does seem like that people in general, Black men specifically, we kind of find this as kind of a almost by happenstance or even by intentionality, but it's not something that we were initially thinking about as a career path. So that's really important. But also being in libraries, you've been in libraries over a decade. I've been in this role a little over 4 years, but that libraries are also very unique and distinct. So you coming from, even though you're still on a higher education background, whether specific things that you had to learn about the nuances of library over the course of your career?
That's a really good question. And there is a lot of nuance that I had to learn and that I am still learning in this role. It almost feels like I can never know too much about the library landscape. And of course, there's the different types of libraries that I've been trying to take the time to learn about their roles in communities and in our society, taking some time to learn the history of libraries, both public libraries and academic libraries in the United States, to kind of try to understand how did we get to where we are as a profession and as an institution in the United States. And so, for me, some of the things that I'm trying to grapple with is this whole notion of, why aren't Black communities, Black men talking about librarianship or libraries as a profession as we are with some of the other professions that come up in our communities. One of the big things is the notion of pay. I can't imagine growing up in the household that I grew up in and telling my parents, hey, I want to work in the library when I get older. I'm not quite sure what they would have said. I don't think it would have been an act of discouragement. But again, I'm from a low income background in a low income community, and one of the primary things that we try to drive home in terms of education is trying to have upward mobility with your financial situation, and saying that I'm going to work in a library, it doesn't lend itself to that initially. And of course, we work in libraries. We know that that's not completely true, but in the same time, we know that our country undervalues what librarianship is and what it has to offer to our society. And with that comes low pay. And that's not by accident. That's by design. So, if we're looking at the history of libraries, particularly public libraries, when it first started in the United States, libraries were private, and it was predominantly led by men. And then the first public library, I believe, was created by Benjamin Franklin, but by this notion of wanting to make sure that our society is well educated and had access to knowledge. It was still predominantly ran by men, and then there was this shift where, and this is, I think, a piece of where the undervalue was coming in, where they started to shift a lot of the labor in libraries to women. and figuring this notion that people who do this work, people who do work in education, even work in nonprofit, they don't need, not me saying this, but this is kind of the framing that I'm understanding. They don't need to make that much, right? Their value is giving back to society, and that will mostly be women doing that work, and men will do the work that brings in a lot of money. And it's an expectation that your partner is taking care of you. So again, you don't need to make much. And I think that kind of is still like the undercurrent of some of the issues of bringing in more diversity, particularly Black and brown people, into the profession, is trying to really highlight that there's a lot of value. There's a ton of value in libraries and what they do for communities and what we do for society, and that we need to be well compensated for that. And we need to make sure that our facilities are well staffed and well maintained, so we can continue to serve the communities that impact us and that we want to have an impact on. So I'm not quite sure how I got there, but taking a step back, again, that was the piece of some of the nuance that I had to understand of the differences of libraries in our society and the work that I was doing in higher education, because there's that piece of education. There's that piece of not having society value the work that we do as much as it should. And it's, again, a lot of learning, still learning some of those nuances. And I want to, again, have a positive impact on the profession and moving us in a way that could continue to serve our communities in a way that makes us proud.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate you amplifying and elevating the pay discrepancies within the profession, and also highlighting historically how we got here, right? And that the low pay in the profession is as a result of people looking at this as a gender-based role for women, and looking at that as something that's labor intensive, but more as a community impact and a social good that doesn't need to render pay equity. So that's a really important discussion that I think we need to continue to have.
Absolutely.
In libraries. I think libraries, much like K-12 education, a majority of the workforce, the overwhelming majority of the workforce, are women. But as higher you get up into the organization, whether it's deans in a library setting, or directors or executive directors in public libraries, similar to superintendents, those positions still are by and large male.
Yep.
So definitely important. I think it's really great that you, brought voice to that here within the conversation. And as you were also talking about libraries being undervalued, and I think part of that is because they're also misunderstood in terms of what our role and function is, beyond just a very surface level. And most of the public, for obvious reasons, interact with public libraries within their cities, within their towns, their communities. So if you could just tell us a little bit more about the mission and functions and goals and objectives of a university, an academic library, and then how your role specifically plays a part of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Our university library is a research library. It's one of the top research libraries in the nation. And our mission is to make sure that our visitors, our patrons, has unrestricted, for the most part, access to knowledge, access to the information that they need to research, to teach, to learn, and to contribute to a society that makes us proud and a society that we want to be. Our library is the role of our library, again, is to help people find their footing in the early stages and even the late stages of how they do research. It is to inspire patrons to want to go out of their way to learn new perspectives, so it can challenge their existing worldview, and hopefully make them a more well-rounded global citizen. We are absolutely a global university, and we're a global research library. And so our role in that, again, is to make sure people have the tools that they need to go out into society and have that positive impact. And my role as the assistant dean for organizational development and culture is to make sure that our fantastic faculty and staff have what they need to be successful in their role. I want to make sure that I'm helping the organization develop and maintain a culture where people could feel like they're proud to say that they work at the Ohio State University Libraries. And people can really feel like they are happy going into work and satisfied when they're leaving work. And so my role in that is to create opportunities for engagement, for shared learning within our organization, and for people to have a consistent positive experience within that organization.
Absolutely. And, what's the most rewarding as well as the most challenging aspect of your role? I'll be opening up Pandora's box.
We could talk about it for hours. And this is good to hear this question and for me to really think about it, because doing culture work is hard. I was doing DEI work, that was really challenging, and doing culture work is really challenging. And it's challenging because you want to do right by the people. You want to do good work. You want to make sure people feel valued and heard and seen, and you're one person or maybe a small team of people who are serving hundreds of people who have diverse experiences and diverse needs, a wide range of needs, and you can't meet everybody's needs at the same time with the same tool. So you have to develop a toolkit, multiple ways of reaching people. And even then you don't always get it right? This work, it touches every single individual within the organization. And so every single individual within the organization has an opinion about how you do that work. It is not quite the same with the people who are doing public facing work or external facing work within the organization. Their accountability structures are a little bit different, but it's still a lot of pressure there too. And so I think that's the challenging piece there of wanting to do really good work, and knowing that you won't get 100% satisfaction, and it kind of gnaws at you that it won't be 100%. So you have to get to that critical tipping point of making sure that you have that positive impact and feeling okay with the work that you've done. I would say the most rewarding piece of the work that I do is when I get to have one-on-one conversations with people. A lot of this work lends itself to people reaching out to me directly for guidance and for advice on how to navigate professional relationships, how to navigate working with key stakeholders and our external constituents. And I always feel honored that people reach out to me for my guidance and advice. I don't take that lightly. And so I really take it serious when people see me as someone who can help them. So that's rewarding in and of itself. And one of the biggest compliments that I get in this role that I truly, truly appreciate is when we wrap up a conversation and someone tells me they feel heard. Mm-hmm. Even if I feel like maybe I wasn't on my A game in that conversation, or, that's something I'm going to think about for the next few days on reaching out and how we can tweak some of the ways that they're going to navigate a particular situation. Just people saying that I felt like you listened, you heard me. It just makes me feel amazing, because that's what we want that's why I want people to experience an organization, is that they feel like they belong, they feel seen, they feel heard. There was a situation a couple of years ago. I was about 1 or 2 years into the role, and there was a fire alarm in our building. So we were all outside, and some of our colleagues were clustering around and having conversations. And I was talking with a colleague who this was my first time having a one-on-one with this person. And they were just telling me about their experience in the organization. They had been working in the organization for decades and had been in the institution for decades. And they were telling me about a bad experience that they had back in the 80s of their time in the university. And they knew that there was absolutely nothing that I can do about that experience. And they shared it with me anyway. And I had just talked with them and wanted to make sure that that's not the type of experience that they will have in our organization today. And they left and said, they said, I've been working in this organization for over 30 years. And this is the first time where I shared that story. I actually felt like somebody was listening to me. And one, that's heartbreaking because I think that some of us feel like if we can't do anything about it, then they kind of, bat the person away or don't directly listen to them or tune them out or something like that. And again, even though I can't do anything about that particular experience, it definitely helps me think about the environment that we want to create today. And so I take every single story that people share with me seriously, and I want to know more about that situation and about them too. Because like I was sharing earlier, my work is to try to make sure every person in the organization who wants to do good work feel like they belong in the organization. And so, that story, I still think about it, and that this person hasn't really felt heard in decades, but they now feel like they are heard because I'm a part of the organization.
Absolutely. That's really important, making sure that people feel seen, heard, and valued. And that's really at the epicenter of this culture and community work. Myself having served in a chief DEI role at this library. And we're at a precipice right now within the country.
Yes.
Higher education is certainly at the forefront of that, right in the epicenter of it, as are K-12 public schools, as are public libraries. So how would you kind of just describe the current climate and culture around equity, diversity, and inclusion at universities, and then more specifically, how that impacts university libraries? Because I think people are immediately think about the admissions, Supreme Court decisions related to admissions, cultural identity centers. But not a lot of thought maybe has been given to how those type of decisions have impacted the functionality of university library.
Yeah. It is hard to describe. It is eye-opening. It's an eye-opening experience. It's a heavy experience. It's challenging. And also, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to meet the moment and show up and figure out how to do this work in a way that doesn't compromise our values as an organization, remain in compliance with the legal system, but still meet the needs of the communities who need it the most. What has happened over the last couple of years really has just really made this a challenging situation where we've had to really get creative. And we also had to be bold and brave to not shy away from this moment, while at the same time doing some internal work to maintain your mental health and mental well-being so you can be able to show up for people, which I have not always done the best work at it, but I'm trying. I'm still trying to do it. And yeah, this moment requires people to do what libraries do best, and that is sharing the information, making sure people have access to the information and understanding the information too. Here in Ohio, we had the Senate Bill 1 pass that really impacts higher education. And really impacts DEI. So as someone who is a DEI higher education practitioner, it was a lot for me to wrap my mind around, even though I had saw how this is playing out in different states. And one of the things that we talked about before we got on camera is this notion of coalition building. So as I started seeing some of this anti-DEI legislation passing in places like Florida and Texas and Iowa, even though it hadn't passed here in Ohio, I was having conversations with my colleagues in various states to talk about how we do coalition building, because it doesn't directly impact us yet, but it will. And now I'm in a state that has passed anti-DEI legislation, and I feel a little bit more prepared, as prepared as someone could be in this rapidly changing landscape, to really understand what the law is saying, trying to make sense of some of the reasoning behind the law, right? So understanding the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, and not trying to put the organization in a position where we're trying to game the system, but really position us in a way of understanding what the floor is and where we go from there, right? Not needing to overcorrect, and continuing to do things that will make us proud and live our values. With the passing of Senate Bill 1, there was a lot of question around if we can continue to do work like this. And so it really took me reading and understanding what the bill is saying, but also reading and understanding the university's interpretation of the bill, because universities, their legal team will interpret things in different ways. And so we want to make sure we're both in compliance with the law, in compliance with university policy, and continue to do the good work. And so we were able to put on a successful event this year, and learning from others who are in similar environments. So there's a lot of universities in Florida that does work around banned books, as well as Texas, and trying to understand how they navigate that situation. And while we can't be as bold and direct as we were in the past, we can continue to meet that moment, and do so in a way where we feel proud about some of the work that we're doing. So it's been tough. There's been a lot of tough conversations, and a lot of anxiety on, am I doing the right thing? Am I going to get this right? Is this going to sound performative? Is this going to be too watered down? Should we just stop doing this altogether? Because that's really the safest and easiest thing to do, is just to stop doing this altogether. And so it is waking up every morning, giving yourself the pep talk, working with your teams who want to continue to be so brave and so bold, which I love, and being the team lead and helping us navigate some of these changing situations, and also articulating clearly of what is our responsibilities and what are some potential consequences if we don't get this right, and understanding some of the pressure there. All of that is what I wrestle with as I, trying to navigate everything that's happening.
Yeah, that's a lot there to unpack for certain. And just the pure reality that state legislation has been passed that not only outlaws more than a career, but really a calling, right, to advance equity, diversity, and inclusion and social justice. And, I think for a lot of DEI practitioners, that has created a existential crisis, right?
Yes.
A where do we go from here
Yeah.
moment. So definitely appreciate you pivoting and finding new ways to continue that work.
Yeah. I appreciate that. That's been a lot of the work this past year is, where do we go from here? And it's not only the notion of the profession and the calling being challenged. It is the frustration of how it's being misrepresented and miscategorized. The people who are closest to the work knows what it is, and the people who are challenging the work or challenging it in a way where they're talking about merit-based, just a merit-based society, merit-based to success. And that is what DEI is all about. It is really about highlighting merit in ways that we haven't been able to do so historically. And so that's the challenging piece. And so the pivot is, okay, if we're talking about merit, then let's talk about merit. Let's continue to bring in people who are the best for these roles, for these positions. Let's continue to go out of our way to find people to join the organization, to be the best. And let's continue to serve the communities that we have been charged in serving to position our populations to be the best, right? To have the merit to succeed.
Absolutely. And, when talking about merit-based, I also want to give you the opportunity thinking about climate, culture, recruitment, as well as retention and advancement. What we know is that Black men only account for 1% of library professionals and practitioners. So what type of strategies can library professionals as well as administrators and leaders take to continue to diversify the profession in general, but Black men specifically? Yeah.
It is getting out into the spaces where we are building relationships and really doing some active outreach and some active recruitment. Before we got on camera, you had mentioned that this podcast is a bit of qualitative work. And I would love to know how many of us Black men got into the profession just by happenstance, right? Without the intentionality of knowing that this is the direction that you're going to go in. Because my career in libraries have centered around people reaching out to me directly and saying, hey, you should consider this. The role that I'm in right now, a colleague who was a leader in the organization reached out to me in a way of saying that, hey, do you know who may be good for this role? Sharing information. And I let them know, yeah, I'll pass it along with no intention of applying myself. And them saying, and I would love to see your name in the applicant pool, giving me the confidence to say, wow, I didn't even consider myself, right? I kind of position myself as a referral agent of sharing information in the various networks that I'm a part of. And a lot of this work in DEI and higher education and student affairs, it brings a level of humility where you don't think about yourself that much. And so there's a lot of us out there in similar situations who just need that nudge to say, just throw your name in the applicant pool, or you should really consider going to library school, or you should consider the skills that you have as essential skills that could make you successful in the library field. So I think more of that needs to happen, both formally and informally. Formally, because you can capture more people, or you can position yourself to have the largest impact. But I think informally is really where people take you seriously and take you up on some of the offers that you're making it. So, it's doing the hard work and building relationships, networking at, conferences and committees. That's how we met, right? We met on a committee a few years ago, and then you did some outreach to me, and now we're here having that conversation. And so you're doing exactly what you should be doing. You are meeting people. You are, capturing their names, and then you're doing the outreach. And that's exactly what we all need to be doing. We need to make sure that, we're thinking about the people who we come across, and trying to understand who they are and trying to position them the best that they can be, because that's just going to make our profession better as a whole.
Truly appreciate that, brother. Just the connections and networking is truly important and vital. And the last question that I want to ask you is, you talked about the influence of your late brother had on you and becoming an avid reader. Are there any other people within the profession or outside the profession that have really been like critical cogs and mentors to you growing in the profession?
Yeah. I am honored. To have lived a life that I have come across so many phenomenal people who have taken a chance on me, who have believed in me, and it just positioned me to be where I am today, and wanting to pass that along. Of course, I have to start off by talking about my wife, Jamelia Dickens. We met at college, and my first year in college was one of the toughest times of my life. I talk about coming from a low income community, and having a lifelong dream of becoming a video game programmer, and finding a institution that was doing video game work, and seeing how that dream was starting to become a reality, and getting to that institution and realizing I can't afford to be here. I cannot afford to be here. And she was my girlfriend at the time. My wife now was with me every step of the way to try to figure that out. And in that process, I ended up meeting another mentor of mine who I'm honored to have worked with over the, my professional career. His name is Roger Moriano, and he was the director of multicultural affairs, which became intercultural affairs, I believe, at Elmhurst College. And he was really one of the first people to introduce me to a lot of social justice concepts in the higher education landscape. And he literally walked me from his office to the financial aid office. He used to work in financial aid, and was committed to trying to help me find a way to stay at that institution. And we were successful in finding additional scholarships, and getting me introduced to the student affairs side of things. I would go on to be a resident advisor at that institution for 3 years. And during that course of that time, finding other mentors at that institution and beyond, who encouraged me to go to grad school and get a master's degree. At the time, it was a huge leap to even get a bachelor's degree, because my mom had her associate's degree at a community college in St. Louis, and outside of that, my immediate family didn't have any other advanced degree. So getting a bachelor's degree was a huge step, and never even considered getting a master's degree. So I had people telling me that you should go to grad school, and in grad school I had some great mentors, and then all of my supervisors throughout my professional career have been fantastic. And currently my supervisor, Damon Jaggers, the dean of university libraries, has really helped me transition into a senior leader within that organization, that has brought a lot of self-doubt and challenges, because I've historically been in positions that have had an impact organizational wide, but to be a senior leader is a different task in and of itself. And so he's been really fantastic in helping me transition and learn about myself, and trying to be the leader that he sees in me, and that my partner and my hopefully my kids see in me as well. So all of those folks have been fantastic people in my life.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. You've given us so many gems here in the Gem City. Is there anything else that you would like to add in closing?
Well, one, is thank you for the invitation. Thank you for this wonderful professional setup. Again, as we were talking before we got on this camera, I'm thinking about how we can take some of the things that I'm learning here and apply that to university libraries. I would also say that if you have not considered it yet, I think your audience needs an interview with you, somebody asking you these questions, because the time we've worked together, you have been an inspiration. Our time on that committee, me looking up some of your background, and like you said, we have some similar path to librarianship here. And so I would love to hear an episode from the Dr. Karlos Marshall too. But just with that, just to thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation, and I'm looking forward to you continuing this work and bringing forth the perspective of Black men's and this profession.
Truly appreciate that. Sincerely. I'll definitely have to look into that and make that happen. And how can people continue to follow your work and your journey?
Yeah, you can reach out to me directly. My information is on University Library's website. My email is dickens.86@osu.edu. Like I said, I take pride in when people reach out to me and have one-on-one conversations. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well. You can just search Thomas Dickens at University Libraries at Ohio State University. I'm not big on social media. I've taken a bit of a social media break this past year with everything going on for my mental health, but I think it's a goal of mine to make that transition back into the social media landscape next year and contribute to the statewide and the national conversation around culture and climate, both in organizations and in DEI, because even with everything that is going on, the work continues. And so the work is going to happen with or without you. And so I wanted to be with me. I want to try to have my perspective seen and heard. So right now, email, LinkedIn. Hopefully in the future, you will find me on Threads or Facebook or maybe even X. I haven't decided. I'm going to get back there yet. But that's where you can find me now.
Truly appreciate you joining us here this morning. And this was yet another episode of Cataloging the Culture, where we highlight and amplify the voice and visibility of brothers doing tremendous work, such as Brother Thomas Dickens. Again, I'm your host, Dr. Karlos L. Marshall. Thanks for listening. Until next time.